It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, and so do you. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, heading towards a great sports Super Bowl weekend, it's time for Hacksaw's Headlines, our Thursday podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host John Riley. We are joining you. We have an absolute ton of topics on the table. We're going to go a lot of different directions, and you are invited to stay with us through the course of our podcast today, because you will take over this podcast right at the end of the show. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects for 2025, they've got materials. If you want ideas, they'd be glad to act as your consultant. Just go online, DIXIELINE.com, to see all the things they have to offer. DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Left hand says, a lot of football to talk about. Right hand says, man, there's a lot of other stories that are late breaking. We got a busy show ahead of us.
Yeah, but you were just texting me less than an hour ago to change some of the boards here. There's been so many deals.
Yeah, we got an awful lot to talk about. Before we get started, John, we cover a lot of things. We do sports talk the way it should be done on this podcast. And when we're done, we invite all of our followers on live stream to stay with us, because they get the chance then to participate, kind of become co-hosts with Fans Forum. Just explain how that works.
Okay, so Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. You have a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Type in your comment on X, Facebook, or on YouTube in the live chat. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
And just a couple of other items. If you love sports, please check my website. I write on it every day of the week. That's at leehacksawhamilton.com. It's there first thing in every morning. Does not matter what your favorite sport is. It might be the NFL on Super Bowl week. It might be Major League Baseball with the opening of spring trainings. It might be all things NBA. Might be the NHL. Might be PGA Golf Tour, auto racing, soccer. I cover it all. You can go segment to segment. Stop laughing. There's a lot of work involved in this.
I mean, you have to catch your breath getting through that list.
Anyhow, check my website every morning. Please do. Pass on to all your friends what we're doing. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do with the podcast. Mondays at 1:30. Thursdays, for the most part, at 1 p.m. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, and we do that quite a bit, you will get an alert. We also want you to join us on social media, become part of Hacksaw's Twitter All-Star team. Just type in my handle at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button every time I put something up on X. You'll be made aware of that. And we want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You can register to get on our special email list. The orange box is on the homepage of my website. Put your email address in there, because we send a lot of stuff out, kind of special stuff, to all the Insiders Group. John, I'm ready. Are you ready? Here comes Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday. It's finally here, and you do a great job breaking it down. Let's get a preview going.
Yeah, we're going to go a lot of different directions, and then we're going to take a vote who's going to win the Super Bowl. But let's get started. Topic number 1, super seasons. I mean, this was just an absolutely amazing year for both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Superb seasons, I'd have to say. You know, the pressure on Kansas City, I think, for the whole season, John, was, can they three-peat? How long will they go unbeaten? Is anybody going to knock them off along the road in the playoffs? It's not the same vintage Kansas City Chiefs team we've seen in years gone by. I kept saying, well, the injuries had a lot to do with it. Trust me, their best football is still ahead of them. And their best football came as we got to postseason, and they're playing on Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, this has been a superb 15-2 football team that's gone through some really bumpy roads. At the end of the day, this team has gotten healthy. Offense has now been rebuilt around the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Offensive line went through a lot of manifestations. They moved people around. They think they probably have the right people in the right places for Super Bowl Sunday. It's a really, really good team. Philadelphia is just sitting there waiting. Nobody's talked about the fact the Eagles won 14 games this year. Nobody's talked about the fact Philadelphia's won 15 of the last 16 games they've played. They're talking, obviously, about their great star running back, Saquon Barkley. They're talking about Nick Sirianni. They should be talking about every facet of Eagle football. These are really two really, really good teams. I'm going to give you a chance just to respond to each of the segments we're going to do here. Your thoughts on the season Kansas City just completed and what Philadelphia has arrived at.
It's interesting that both of these teams went through, we'll call them, quote, rough patches.
Yep.
I mean, the Eagles, last year they finished the season a disaster, and they got off to a slow start, if I recall. And we were kind of counting them out, and then all of a sudden they came running on a vengeance.
Philadelphia, 8 blowout wins this season alone.
Yeah.
And you're correct. They lost 6 of their last 7 at the end of last season. They collapsed. Sirianni made coaching changes. Bingo, it's a very different team. And then there's the Kansas City statistic, which everybody's made reference to. They have won 17 straight games by a touchdown or less. John, that means to me their DNA, they know how to play at the most pressurized points of a game. Crunch time, fourth quarter, crunch time, come from behind, crunch time if it has to go to overtime. That's an intangible that not a lot of people have. 17 wins in a row by a touchdown or less, going back last year and a half. So these two teams are ready, I think.
You're praising them now? You were always saying this has got to be the most disappointing 8-2, 9-2 team that I've seen in a long time.
But dumbass co-host also said their best football is still ahead of them once they got healthy, and now their best football is right in front of them. Am I right or am I right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I just reinforcing who I am. So super seasons. Next topic here, John.
Okay, let's talk about the coaches, Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni.
I use the word mad scientist, and that's what Andy Reid is. What he has done in terms of molding the talent and then giving them the unique aspects of the playbook to play to their strengths is absolutely phenomenal. Andy Reid is head coach, 273 wins, 146 losses. Andy Reid as head coach in Kansas City, 161-60. Andy Reid in the toughest part of the season to play, he's 28-16 in postseason games. He's got 3 Super Bowl rings already. This is his 6th appearance in a Super Bowl. And I use the word mad scientist because it relates to what he does with formations. All you need to do is think back to what happened in the AFC Championship game with Buffalo in the fourth quarter. When this game was on the line, what did Kansas City do? They came to the line of scrimmage with formations that Buffalo had never seen. And they ran Patrick Mahomes off these wild formations for 5 first downs. And they targeted all their wide receivers to start. Travis Kelce had 1 catch in the first half. And then when it really counted, Kelce caught 7 balls in the second half of the game. And it's all predicated on the mad scientist. They go to the line of scrimmage and they'll show that defense something they've never seen on video before. And now you got to defend it because the Chiefs spent 2 weeks Super Bowl prep practicing these weird formations and then obviously making big plays. Nick Sirianni, head coach, Eagles. This guy's record is 48-20. Not bad. This guy's postseason record is already 5-3. And they have won games this season by 9, 11, 14, and 14. Second time in the Super Bowl for Sirianni's football team. Granted, it's different than Mahomes, who's playing in his 5th Super Bowl in 7 years. He's a really good coach. But whereas Andy Reid lives off this whole mad scientist thing, him and Steve Spagnuolo, his defensive coordinator, Nick Sirianni just lays it out there. The big dogs have come to play, and we're going to jump you, and we're just going to beat you up because that's who we are. There's an awful lot of bite in the way the Philadelphia Eagles play football. So your thoughts on the old dog head coach and the young pup head coach?
You love Andy Reid, don't you? I mean, he's your guy, man. You stroke this guy every year about all of this innovative stuff he brings to the table. You've opened up my eyes on a lot because I knew that was a thing with him, but it's really a thing, the way that he redesigns these formations going into playoff games. So, yeah, Sirianni's going to see something they've never seen before.
So you agree. I am right again.
I think you are right. I mean, is there a better NFL coach in the history of the NFL that you say is better than Andy Reid?
All the greatest coaches get to the postseason, and the career records are 500, maybe with the exception of Belichick. Well, this guy, Andy Reid, as I said, is 28-16 in the playoffs. The hardest time of the year when the great teams play the great teams. He's 28-16.
It's weird, too, that he used to be the head coach of the Eagles,
Yeah.
and brought them a Super Bowl championship, if I recall. So, yeah, Sirianni, I just don't know enough about the guy. I mean, obviously, he's legit and he's got a great team. He's led him into the playoffs, but this is all going to be the fun of the mad scientist.
Okay, we move on. Next topic on the table involves who's on the field.
Yeah, the superstars showdown.
Yeah, let's start with the quarterbacks, obviously. We'll start with Patrick Mahomes. What a statistical season. As I said, this is his 5th Super Bowl appearance in 7 years, John. He has 4,714 all-purpose yards this season, 28 touchdowns. He's just absolutely amazing. Now, he's got people around him that make a big difference. A collection of young wide receivers, old wide receivers. The group involves DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown. It involves J.J. Schuster-Smith. It involves young guys like Xavier Worthy and Sky Moore. Travis Kelce, 106 receptions this season. They don't use him every quarter, but suddenly he gets open and he just keeps making plays. So Kansas City's got just a collection of really good people around Patrick Mahomes. Philadelphia's offense right now is Saquon Barkley. Barkley having a phenomenal year, 2,447 yards rushing, almost 6 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns on the ground. Not bad. The big thing, he's tough to stop, and if he gets to the second level, your linebackers and your safeties and your corners are going to have trouble bringing him down because he's got the dimension of an extra gear once he runs to daylight. Saquon Barkley, phenomenal. Jalen Hurts has had a good season. His game has changed a little bit because he's been dinged up. But Hurts comes into this game with 4,160 yards, all-purpose passing and running. He's accounted, had his fingerprints are on 39 different touchdowns, throwing and running. Hurts is different, obviously, than Mahomes, but Barkley is much different there. And, of course, both these teams' defenses are really something. What Spagnuolo does with his defense is absolutely amazing, moving people around, showing you one thing, sending a blitz from somewhere else. The guy has no fear that his guys are going to get there and make plays. Philadelphia's just mean street football. They are so big and they are so tough. Their front seven is probably the best in the National Football League, and they got a bunch of young guys in the secondary that they're not afraid to put out there in single coverage, who are athletes who can run, who can make plays. I just think across the board, these are two really, really good football teams, almost complete football teams. And John Riley says,
earlier in the year, you were talking about how the Chiefs had like turnstiles on the offensive tackles on each end of it.
Yes.
And they seem to have obviously filled that gap.
Well, they moved their Pro Bowl left guard, Joe Thuney, ex-New England Patriot, out to left tackle. And he has held up really well. However, when we get to the matchups, you're going to see that this might be a bit of a different challenge this weekend. They've kind of solved it, but we don't know now because maybe they have to move some people back just because who they're playing on Super Bowl Sunday and who they're playing on Super Bowl Sunday has a really, really good defensive front. But so of the superstars, who do you like better?
Well, you got to love Mahomes. I mean, though, I think what he is doing is spectacular. If they pull off the three-peat, I think you could argue that he is certainly on a trajectory better than Brady, but really could be considered the greatest of all time. So the stars with Kansas City I like, but you know what's weird with the Eagles is they have a lot of star receivers on that list. I mean, what are the names of some of their receivers again?
Well, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and the tight end Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
Those are the three guys, and they do make plays. But right now, their offense swirls around that guy. What Saquon Barkley's done has been amazing. And he was a really good running back with the New York Giants on a bad team, and he had to overcome 2 different years of major injuries. But he has stayed healthy, and he has been heavy duty. He's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how good he is with Philly and how different he was with the Giants. I mean, what was the problem? Was it with New York? What did Philadelphia figure out?
Philadelphia's got a better roster. Their offensive line's better than the Giants. They have a better quarterback than the Giants had. Barkley had to do it all by himself, and he couldn't do it, and then he got dinged, and he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He's healthy, and he's surrounded by really good people. Oh,
And he's just a good guy, too.
Yes.
You know, he really is savoring this whole opportunity.
Penn State guy.
Yeah.
Good guy. Okay, those are the stars. Next story, what's really going to happen on Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah, the keys to the game. Let's break it down.
Let's start with the matchups. So your Kansas City's offensive front. You got a young center by the name of Creed Humphrey. You got a Pro Bowl guard and turn tackle Joe Thuney. The other guard's really good, Trey Smith. That's what Kansas City's got up front. How the hell do you block Philadelphia's front? Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Josh Sweet, Nolan Smith. Those guys are all first-round draft picks or second-round draft picks. They are so physical force up front. What a challenge for Kansas City's front to block and to protect Patrick Mahomes because of what Philadelphia is bringing off the line of scrimmage. And Jalen Carter right now is probably the best defensive lineman, pass rusher, big, physical, violent guy as there is in the league. So that's one set of matchups. The other matchup, Kansas City, we know Chris Jones, and we know their pass rusher, George Kalafidis, and we know Mike Dana and Trav Wharton. That's their front four. Not bad. Chris Jones is really good. But Philadelphia's got the best offensive line in the league. Landon Donovan, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, whole swath of first and second round picks in the Philadelphia offensive line. I just don't know how Chris Jones and those guys are going to be able to force Jalen Hurts and be able to hold up against the run blocking for Saquon Barkley. Philadelphia's offensive front is superb. Then you got the matchups of the skill possession guys. We know about Kelsey, and we know about Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy, and Juju Schuster-Smith, and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Philadelphia, their secondary is led by a really good safety. Darius Slay matching up against Travis Kelce every snap. Man, that's going to be like a fist fight. That's pretty good. And they got a good cover corner in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And they got a number one draft pick who plays with great speed and skill, kid out of Toledo by the name of Quinyon Mitchell. And they got Chris Dijon from Iowa and Reed Blankenship, who came off the street and has become a really good player. So Philadelphia's got a lot of really good guys in the secondary, led by Darius Slay, to try to choke off Kelsey and those wide receivers. The flip side is when the Eagles are moving the ball, and you alluded to who these guys are: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Johan Dotson, Dallas Goedert. That's a pretty good collection that Philadelphia can throw to. But they're going against a good Kansas City defensive secondary. Trent McDuffie and Brian Cook are fast and very, very active, and they hold up too in single coverage. And then obviously you got the running back matchups: Barkley versus Kareem Hunt, Isaac Pacheco, special teams guys, Harrison Butker versus Jake Elliott. So as we talk about the matchups, John, I just think Kansas City's got the edge at quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia's got the edge at running back. I think Kansas City's got the edge in the wide receiver group. But Philadelphia's got the best offensive line. Philadelphia's got the best defensive line. I think Philadelphia's got the best secondary. Kansas City's got the field goal kicker. Philadelphia's got the mad scientist and his defensive coordinator. Here we go. That's 8 categories, pal. 5 of them are green. 3 of them are red. I got Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl. And John Riley, talk about the matchup.
You're going against your guy, Andy Reid, really?
Did you ask me a question? Do you wanted details? I gave them to you. I just broke it down.
You did. You did.
All right, so go ahead. You can respond to the matchup. What do you think's the biggest matchup of all?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be the Kansas City offense against the Philly defense, particularly on the edges with the receivers, and whether or not Mahomes is going to be like breaking off some like 3rd and 17 run plays. That's what I want to see.
You're probably going to see some of that because he's probably going to have to do some of that because Philadelphia's defense, I think, is really exceptional.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they'll punch you in the mouth. And that Jalen Carter kid, I kind of like him. He has a personality, so he's fun to watch. But didn't the Eagles like sign a bunch of kids from Georgia? And I think Jalen Carter was one of them.
Alabama, Georgia. That's who they drafted the last couple of years. That's why their defense is so good. Alabama or Georgia or both.
So that's Howie Roseman, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about.
Okay. So I picked the Eagles to win.
Oh, well, I'm going with my guy, Matt Ariza, man. This is San Diego State. This is the Chiefs are going to win here. How can you go against the three-peat? I'm all for the Chiefs. I think, A, I want them to win, and B, I think they will win.
You'll be taking me out for filet mignon after the Super Bowl.
Is that what you're going to require? Not a Philly cheesesteak sandwich?
Okay. We've talked about the coaches. We talked about the stars. I want to talk about something nobody else in the country is talking about, and they should be talking about. John, next one.
Yeah, the general managers, the brains behind the team.
Unsung heroes. These guys are really gifted. These guys have done a great job. I'm talking about Howie Roseman of the Eagles, the one with the phone in his hand, and Brett Veach of Kansas City, the general managers. Get this. Kansas City's offensive unit, 6 starters are high draft picks. They have 4 free agents and 1 guy who came from a trade. 6 starters, obviously, Mahomes is the marquee draft pick there. On the defense, Brett Veach has 9 starters of his 11 that he drafted. There's only 2 free agents on the Kansas City defense. And he's got 6 starters on his defense that are either first, second, or third round draft picks. I mean, virtually that whole team, 15 of the top 22 in Kansas City's lineup are their own guys, their own draft picks. Amazing. Howie Roseman, offense. Yes, it is Saquon Barkley, but 7 starters on the offense are his draft picks in Philadelphia. His offensive line has a 1, a 2, a 2, and a 7. Defensively, 7 of the starters on the Eagle defense are his own draft picks. 6 of those starters are either first, second, or third round draft picks. It's absolutely amazing. 14 of their 22 are their own in-house selections. Nobody in the country, even the smart guys who are at the Super Bowl, the quote insiders, are talking about what these guys have given those coaches to work with. I think Roseman and Veach, I think, are the 2 best player personnel guys in the National Football League. But, I mean, just think about that. How many Chiefs in the starting 22 and how many Eagles in their starting 22 are their own draft picks? Nobody else is doing it in the league. They don't make mistakes.
That's what I was thinking. They don't miss on draft day. I mean, how often do teams pick up a first, second, third round pick and they flame out and they're just a real disappointment? These guys are starting and winning. I mean, they're doing it the right way.
Is this going to be a 60-minute bar fight? What do you think this game's going to be like?
Well, maybe in the stands, you get those Philly fans out there. But yeah, it's going to be a wild game. I could see this being a high-scoring game, but with tough defense at the same time.
There can be some turnovers, though. I don't know that it's going to be 35-31. I think there'll be some turnovers here because both these teams are so rugged. But I just think there's too much mean green out there. I think Philadelphia's just got too many stud players, especially this is like World War I trench warfare.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Eagles' offensive line is going to dominate, and I think Philadelphia's defensive front cannot be contained. Mahomes is going to have his hands full, and Philadelphia's just got way too much in the trenches. That, I think, changes the whole concept of the game.
This is like you're the Super Bowl of all your Super Bowls, right? I mean, it's like the biggest NFL game. Break it down for me. What are you going to do on Super Bowl Sunday?
I'm going to a cul-de-sac party till kickoff. Then I'm going home to watch the game in quiet, chart some stuff, make some notes. So when we come back on Monday, we'll have everything to talk about. It's a good game. It's a great game. I mean, we got 2 great groups of players, 2 rosters full of talent, 2 really different coaches. I think it's going to be a really fun Super Bowl to speak of. Okay, that's my opinion on Super Bowl Sunday. You just heard what he said. Now, he's got an American Express Gold Card, so we just might invite a select group of Hacksaw's Insiders group to come have dinner and beers with us, and we'll just put it on John's plastic because I'm picking Philadelphia. John is picking Kansas City.
The Chiefs, man. Team of destiny.
End of the day, fans forum chat box is open. We're looking for NFL fans to pile in. What do you think is the key to the game? Will it be Kansas City red? Will it be Philadelphia Eagle green? Who's going to win on Super Bowl Sunday? We invite you to join us on Fans Forum when we're done putting topics on the table. We're going to give you the opportunity to participate. Jump on board. By the way, there's a lot of other stuff going on around the National Football League off the field. Let's just quickly run through the NFL notebook. Let's start with Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell releases this report on concussions. Concussions down another 17% with the use of the Guardian caps and the new rules they've put in place. Concussions on kickoffs and special teams down 73% because of the new rules that they put in place. So very positive vibe feedbacks there. They're talking about more international games. The Rams have just been chosen by the commissioner's office to be one of the anchor teams who will play next year in 2026 in Melbourne, Australia. And Goodell has confirmed competition committee will meet in the offseason to talk about further expansion of instant replay, maybe even with a coach's challenge for blows to the head, blows to the face mask, notably for quarterback protection. So that's what Roger Goodell's State of the League address was. Second item, it just gets worse and worse in Cleveland. And I'm not talking about the winter weather. Now Myles Garrett, their superstar defensive end, has got 102 career quarterback sacks, goes public, announces he does not want to be part of any rebuild any longer. He's asked to be traded. Browns have already turned down an offer of 2 number 1 draft picks for Myles Garrett. He's got 102 career quarterback sacks. He just doesn't want to be there. Tennessee evidently is willing to trade the number 1 pick in the draft to give the Browns a choice of whatever quarterback they want to get Myles Garrett. They'd also offer a future number 1. At this point, Cleveland has said absolutely not. Third team, Chargers, laying the groundwork to add things to help their quarterback, Justin Herbert. There's going to be like you and me watching this game on TV. The Chargers have approached the Rams about a deal for Cooper Kupp. Kupp is going to be traded. He's got a $29 million cap figure. Rams are going to have to pay some of the contract to move Kupp off the roster. But at age 32, he's had some injuries. You're not giving up a 1 or a 2 to get Cooper Kupp, but maybe the Chargers consider giving up a 3rd-round pick to the Rams to get him. If not him, they're talking to Seattle about their big physical wide receiver, DK Metcalf. He can be had, maybe a 3rd or a 4th-round pick. There's been a wild rumor out there, George Pickens, Pittsburgh, but he's so erratic as a personality. Granted, he's gifted athletically, but he just seems to come with an awful lot of baggage. I don't even know that Pittsburgh wants to trade him, but I can't see the Chargers giving up a number 1 pick. But those are the 3 names that are kind of swirling out there Super Bowl week that the Chargers are looking at. I think Kupp would be a nice short-term rental addition to work. Now, they need help up front. I don't like their center situation. I think they're deficient at guard. One name has surfaced who's going on the open market, and I'd make a move on this guy. Ryan Kelly is a 4-time Pro Bowl starting center in Indianapolis Colts. Now, he's had some injury problems the last year and a half, but he's going on the open market. If I were the Chargers, that's a guy I would go get for my offensive line. Next team, Raiders. There's a rumor a day in Las Vegas about how they're going to solve the quarterback situation. The latest rumor, Sam Darnold said he's in, I think the correct, is it adverb or adjective? The correct word he used is enthralled. He's enthralled with the idea, Chip Kelly, Raiders offensive coordinator, he's enthralled with the idea, meeting Tom Brady, evaluating film structure. Suddenly, soon-to-be free agent quarterback Sam Darnold is casting glances towards the Raider Nation. Now, his name comes on the heels of Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins, who evidently might be released in Atlanta, and, of course, Russell Wilson. Of course, the Raiders could trade up in the draft if that's possible. I keep hearing they have real interest in Shedeur Sanders, but they'd have to trade as high to get to number 1 or 2. I don't know that they want to do that right now. And the last topic on the table has to do with the NFL Players Association, which holds its own separate press conference at Super Bowl week. After Roger Goodell talked openly about the 18-game schedule, the head of the union says absolutely not. Says there are no players in favor of an 18-game regular season schedule, regardless of how much more money is pushed to the front of the table, John, because they say the wear and tear factor on the players shortens their careers. He says guys who go through surgeries at the end of the season, and there's a lot of them who do, need that whole offseason to recover from that surgery. And if you're asking them to come back to camp early so you can play an 18-game schedule, he says that's not good on behalf of the players. So, John, you want to respond, talk about the commissioner, talk about the Browns mess, the Chargers needs, the Raiders quarterback situation, and we all love watching games on TV, 18-game schedule, but it's not good for the players. Response?
Quick responses here. I love how the commissioner always does this state of the league thing, right before the Super Bowl. That's great stuff. Number 2, Myles Garrett. Clearly he wants out. I get it. A hell of a player. A lot of people would love to trade for him. But wasn't there a time early in his career that he got in trouble with something like about excessive sacking or something like that?
Well, I'm sure, yeah, he got excited and he got penalized for personal fouls. He's got 102 career sacks. Never been in trouble off the field.
He seems like a good guy now.
Making a ton of money. But he's in his first year, he suffered through 0-16. And what did he suffer through last year? Deshaun Watson in 4-13.
Yeah.
He's tired of losing and he doesn't want to be in another rebuild. And that's the weather forecast in Cleveland is crappy, cold, snowy weather in winter and another rebuild season during the football season. That's the weather forecast in Cleveland. He don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I mean, so get out of Dodge. Hopefully there's another team they can make a trade on. The receivers, the Chargers are considering sound great. Cooper Kupp, that DK Metcalf is a hell of a player. But I want to talk about the Raiders. I love this idea of people wanting to play for the Raiders now. Suddenly, you said Sam Darnold was enthralled. Oh, by the way, that's a verb, I think. And anyways, Sam Darnold is enthralled. People are now wanting to be part of what Tom Brady is building, where in the past, a lot of teams have refused to even deal with the Raiders.
Well, players that go there for the payday only, that turn out to be a disaster. But you're dealing now with Pete Carroll, Brady, Chip Kelly. Yeah, I think those guys are magnets.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's where we are. Hot topics on the table around the National Football League. We get to halftime. Our podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas. Just go to their website, DIXIELINE.com, to see all the unique things they can offer you. We're at halftime with our podcast, still to come. If you like NBA basketball, hold on to your seat. We got that. We're talking Major League Baseball. Hockey hotline is open, etc. And when we're done with this podcast, you take it over. John's going to explain how this new fans forum works on this live stream broadcast.
Yeah, it's your chance to get involved. You got a comment or question for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, type it in the live chat on X, on YouTube, or on Facebook. We got a bunch of guys piling in already. So, join in the fun.
And reminder, you like sports, please check my website. I write on it every day of the week. Does not matter what your favorite sport is. There's a page for you. Just go to the best 15 minutes in sports. You can read everything or just select. If you like the NFL, if you all NBA, you're into Major League Baseball as spring training opens, you want to cover hockey, we cover it all. Just LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And by the way, when you punch up my homepage, there's a big orange box right there on the front page. Fill it out, join Hacksaw's Insiders group, because John's going to take everybody to lunch to pay off this bet on the Super Bowl. So join the Insiders group. You're on social media. Follow me. Just go to my handle, @Hacksaw1090. Hit follow. You'll know every time I put something up on X. Also want you to share. Tell everybody what we do. Mail it in to your friends. Tell them Hacksaw's on the air, 1:30 on Mondays and usually 1 p.m. on Thursdays. And we want you to subscribe on the YouTube channel, because when you do that, you will get the alerts every time we put videos up on our own YouTube channel, on all the other social platforms too. So kind of become part of everything we're doing. Are we ready for the second half?
I mean, this has been a wild week, few hours leading up to the trade deadline in the NBA.
Trade deadline has come and gone. As of 1 o'clock, there were 25 trades made at the NBA trade deadline. There may be a few more that are filtering out that you will probably find out about through the afternoon into the evening. But obviously, this all started with the Lakers triggering the massive deal with the Dallas Mavericks, the Luka Doncic trade. Doncic is a superstar. Doncic, will he be in better physical conditioning shape? Doncic, can he be healthy over the course of an entire season? Doncic, will he be able to coexist and play? Does the offense run through him or through LeBron James? And what do the Lakers do in terms of bigs? One of the things that really surprised me, one of the guys who was part of that deal is a young center who in spurts has played well. His name is Maxi Kleber. He just underwent foot surgery. He may not play all this season. That was one of the guys the Lakers got, and he's a big 6'10", 240-pound center forward who can shoot and score. Does not look like he's going to play. So the Lakers gave up Anthony Davis and gave up Max Christie, gave up a number one to get Doncic, the superstar, and the other young big can't play right now because of surgery. Then in the middle of the night, the Lakers traded their number one draft pick, Dalton Knecht. He goes to Charlotte with Cam Reddish and another number one. And they get Mark Williams, a 7-foot young center, been in the league 2.5 years. He's averaging 16 points and 9 rebounds a game. Looks good on video. Very active, can shoot, kind of a rim protector, but he's got back problems. He's missed a preponderance of games. In fact, Mark Williams has played only 84 games. He's missed 128 games in 2.5 years because of back injuries. And the Lakers traded for him. That's a wear and tear position. There's a lot of combat that goes on down there. And he comes with talent in his bag, but he comes with a bunch of medical papers that say back injuries, back surgery. That's kind of a unique deal. At the end of the day, Rob Pelinka trades in Anthony Davis, Max Christie, Jordan Hood-Schifano, Dalton Knecht, and 2 number one picks.
Wow.
There's nothing left in the war chest to change the roster going forward. What you have is what you're going to have until LeBron James retires, because there's no way to go get other players, and there's virtually nothing left. When you look down that bench, now there's a lot of empty chairs there. It's just, I have no argument with Doncic, but you gave up a really good complete player in Anthony Davis, but man, they've auctioned off virtually everything. So that's the latest with the Lakers. And by the way, speaking of the Mavericks, a lot of heat there about trading Doncic. Anthony Davis did something unique. When was the last time you heard of an NBA player giving money back?
Like never.
Never, except now. Anthony Davis had a $6 million bonus due him because he was traded. He waived the no-trade bonus in his clause to give the Mavericks cap space to go get more players.
Wow.
Anthony Davis, good guy. And he's about to make his debut in Dallas. Third team there, Sacramento Kings. So they moved De'Aaron Fox. Fans in Northern California are just losing their mind over what has happened there in Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox, of course, went to San Antonio in this big mega player deal. At the end of the day, getting rid of a superstar like De'Aaron Fox, they just made a second deal to get a center, Jonas Valanciunas from Washington.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. They got 6 draft picks. They have 3 number ones. They got 3 number twos, but they got Valanciunas to replace De'Aaron Fox superstar who refused to sign a contract. And the stunning part about Sacramento San Antonio trade. So San Antonio's got Wembanyama and Fox, and they retained the big forward, Harrison Barnes. They retained Harrison Barnes. They retained Stephon Castle. They retained the young guard Vessel. And they still retain all 6 of the number 1 picks they have. The future of the NBA, the flag's going to be planted in San Antonio. You talk about a roster that's star-studded and deep with lots of resources. San Antonio Spurs. People in Sacramento just losing their mind. Miami, life after Jimmy Butler. They got rid of him. Now, I don't know if they got fair value, although Butler is 35. But they got rid of the cancer. It wound up being a 5-team deal. Butler traded to Golden State. Miami gets Andrew Wiggins in his expiring contract, which is almost $30 million. They get a number 1 draft pick. They just made another deal today. They got a really good defensive guy. Davion Mitchell came from Toronto. He'll replace Butler's personality there. But they got a ton of cap space, and they got rid of a problem. So Miami is going to be a very, very different team. Golden State gets Jimmy Butler. Can you imagine Steve Kerr, who's already had to deal with a lot with Draymond Green? Steve Kerr has to deal with this guy? Now, there'll be a honeymoon period. Maybe it'll last the rest of the season. Maybe Butler comes in and becomes a good guy. Nah. The last 4 places Butler's gone to, each one of those marriages has ended in a really bad divorce. Oh, man. So Steve Kerr inherits that. Now, will there be peer pressure? Will Steph Curry be able to impose his will on camaraderie with Jimmy Butler? Will Draymond Green just punch Butler in the mouth in practice? Now, how are they going to control Jimmy Butler, who has a history every place he's been? He's talked his way out of 4 different teams by the way he's acted. And by the way, Golden State, after they got him, John, they gave him a 2-year, $111 million extension. He got rewarded for all the crap that he pulled in Miami and all the tantrums. Unbelievable. Keep an eye on Golden State to see who wins this war of wills. That Coach Kerr, his good players, versus that guy coming in the front door with a rep in Jimmy Butler. Phoenix Suns, Valley of the Sun. Beautiful place to live most of the year. Now toxic territory. Kevin Durant refused to go to Golden State. He killed a potential trade for Jimmy Butler, refused to go to Miami. Brad Beal refused to waive the no-trade clause in his contract. That's a big issue. Phoenix, congratulations. You tried to put together a team of superstars. Now you got a toxic team plagued by attitude issues and injury history. Suns are a mess. Milwaukee, Washington. Chris Middleton, Giannis, Dame Lillard. That's a pretty good basketball team. They won a championship a couple of years ago, John. Can you imagine being Chris Middleton, being a superstar, making mega money, already having a ring, and going from there on the final year of his contract to the 6-43 Washington Wizards? Brutal. Chris Middleton gets traded for Kyle Kuzma, who must think he died and went to heaven. He's going from a last place Washington Wizards team to Milwaukee. Clippers. This was a bit of a surprise. They're playing pretty well for Tyronn Lue, but the Clippers made a deal today with Atlanta. They get 3-point shooting guard forward Bogdan Bogdanovic. He can stroke threes. They gave up Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, fringe guards. So the Clippers make some changes there. Toronto, in a bit of a surprise, what a hodgepodge roster they have. They trade for Brandon Ingram and all of his eccentric behavior. He comes from the New Orleans Pelicans for a 1st and a 2nd round pick. And a trade that people should really pay attention to. Cleveland Atlanta just made a deal at the deadline. The Atlanta Hawks send their 3-point shooter, DeAndre Hunter. He's averaging 19 points a game. He goes to the Cavaliers in a 5-for-1 trade of fringe players and draft picks. Cleveland's got all this firepower, led by Donovan Mitchell and obviously Evan Mobley. And now Cleveland adds a 3-point stroker and DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench who can really light it up. So those are the marquee trades. 25 trades in all as of 1 o'clock today. Might be another odd one or two. But, John, I threw a lot on the bulletin board. So your response to the end result, the Lakers getting rid of Connect on top of the last 2 number 1 picks they have. You want to talk about Sacramento? You want to talk about who San Antonio's become? Miami, the Golden State problem? Pick one of those logos, pick all of them. You got a comment?
Yeah, a couple. So it's clear that Pelinka must be thinking, man, we got only LeBron for this year, maybe another. So let's just go all in. So they don't have any now number 1 picks like
through 31.
31. I mean, it's like 6 years of no number 1 picks is what it's going to be. I mean, that's insane. Now, also the interesting storyline is that a lot of people thought that the Lakers didn't give up enough in the trade to get Luka, and that a lot of those other assets that really should have gone to the Mavericks, like Connect and another number 1, they ended up Lakers getting to use those to get this new center, so it's kind of all going the Lakers' way.
Well, so you think, but Mark Williams comes with a bad back. Can't pick up a suitcase. And he's going to be your starting center, and you just traded your number 1 pick this year, Connect, and a future number 1.
Well, they got Doncic thinking that, this is our guy for the future, sure, right? He's going to take us the next 10 years.
You got a 25-year-old superstar, and you got a 23-year-old center, but the center's dinged up.
Yeah, and they have no number one picks for the next 6 years. So it's going to be Luka on an island.
Well, if LeBron leaves a year from now, you will get the 51 million cap space to use to be able to go lure people. But then what kind of team are you going to have? You're going to have Luka against the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's where we are. Like I said, what are you saying? If I gave you Steve Kerr's cell phone number, do you wish to call him and give him some advice how to deal with this guy, Jimmy Butler? What a great player. What a great problem.
Yeah, it's going to be something. Kerr is first class, and he knows how to handle people. So I'm kind of excited. Jimmy Butler has a little bit of a connection here in San Diego. But I mean, granted, he's been whining. He wanted to get off the Heat, but he's never been in trouble. Has he ever been suspended for flagrant fouls or any off the court issues?
No, because he got suspended everywhere he's played for something he did in terms of personal relationship skills. This guy talked his way out of Minnesota, Philadelphia, Chicago, and now Miami.
Well, it seems like the Miami one, he just didn't want to be there anymore, and he was
I couldn't find any joy. He's making 49 and 52 million, and he had no joy.
Yeah, well, so hopefully he'll get some joy in San Francisco with Steph and Draymond. Maybe they can find a way to make this guy happy.
You think Draymond punch him in the mouth in practice?
That could happen. I mean, he's been known to do that.
Steve Kerr, good luck to you. So that's what's going on around the NBA. I spent all morning, my head was blowing off my shoulders as deals were coming so fast and so furious. So that's what's going on around the NBA. We're not done because we got other topics on the table. The next one going from pro basketball. John, where do you want to go next?
We're going to talk Major League Baseball because it never stops in the offseason.
Yeah, let's just run through a quick storyline or two. The owners are still meeting in West Palm Beach, Florida today. The big storyline is obviously what the Dodgers have become, quote, public enemy number one. And then obviously the Dodgers, the Dodgers' public stance is we've done absolutely nothing wrong. We're a really good team and we've reinvested in our franchise, etc. So the Dodgers are still taking a lot of crap from a lot of people. And I believe that they are going to be booed in every stadium they go into this year. They better have their mindset that they can cope with the abuse they're going to get, because I think the term evil empire bears watching, because that has now been transferred from Yankee Stadium in the Steinbrenner era to all things Dodger blue baseball. However, Major League Baseball, the owners this morning unanimously, by a vote of 29-0, approved the elevation of John Seidler to be the control person for the Padres Seidler Trust, and for John Seidler to become the control person to run the franchise. He will be in charge of all interactions with Major League Baseball as it relates to business activities. And the Shields-Seidler lawsuit is there, but it's going to wind up in arbitration. Padres pitchers and catchers, they report on Tuesday. Here's the really unique baseball story that just kind of leaked out. MLB's Central Scouting Bureau released the rankings of the baseball farm systems. The Dodgers are ranked third in all of baseball, not because of their big payroll and all their megastars, but third in baseball in terms of all the young players in their farm system. The report reads, the Dodgers have high-quality position players and have amassed quality pitching arms. And that includes all the guys who have had surgery. The Dodgers are ranked third in baseball in terms of minor league players. The Padres ranked 25th. The quote, barest farm system A.J. Preller has ever had. That being said, it's because he's traded everybody away 3 times. He says their only quality arms are probably in Class A or the Arizona Complex League, and they have 2 young minor leaguers who are going to probably be a AA and A this season that are still 2 years away. And the Angels were ranked 30th, dead last in minor league players, saying they've rushed all their number 1 picks to the major leagues, and that's the reason they lost 99 games last season and might lose 90 more this season. So the Dodgers not only have superstars in the everyday lineup, the Dodgers have the 3rd best farm system, the Padres at 25th, and the Angels 30th. And John Riley, resident baseball fan, says,
Dodgers. These guys cannot do anything wrong. They're like Marsha Brady. I mean, this is unbelievable. So there's so many things to talk about on what you broke down there. But as far as the Dodgers, you got to praise them. They got a great minor league system, but they can go out and sign the big free agent, and they can amass all these picks because they still have tons of resources, way more than any other team.
Yeah, but there's a luxury tax, and there is, in essence, there's a cap on what you can spend in the international field.
Mhm.
That's not unfettered free agency. That's 5.2 million or 5.7 million or 6.3 million. That's what their slot is. They can't go over that. But they don't miss on the players that they draft.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like we were talking about the Super Bowl. Those GMs don't miss over there. Yeah, it's Dodgers. They're going to be great. I'm not worried about AJ Preller. Yeah, the 5th worst, ranked minor league system. But you always talk about how he has boots on the ground and he's always replenishing. So we're going to see more of that, right?
Also, probably going to see another trade.
Oh yeah.
I hate to think pitchers and catchers report on Tuesday and the National League West Series, aka the Dodger Invitational Tournament, is over. Am I wrong for thinking that?
Would it just be something if for some reason the chemistry just didn't work and everything went to hell in a handbasket at Chavez Ravine?
Okay, we put a lot of topics on the table here. You're an NBA fan. Pile in, pile on. Get into the fans forum chat box right now. And if you like Major League Baseball, your response to just what transpired at the owners' meetings and your reaction to the rankings of the farm systems in baseball. Next topic, John.
Next topic, we go back to our hockey hotline, NHL violence.
This is really bad. You want to see something really bad? Just Google Ryan Hartman, Minnesota Wild. He's one of their tough guy players. He just got suspended for 10 games, fined $487,000 on a face-off against the star center of the Ottawa Senators, Tim Stützle. He won the face-off. Stützle fell forward after missing the puck, went down. Hartman took his stick, cross-checked him on the back of the neck, and then drove him face first into the ice with his full body weight of a 210-pound guy. Face first. He's lucky he didn't break Stützle's neck.
Wow.
And then he had the balls, audacity through the union to appeal the suspension. And the league pulled out a rap sheet on him. They said, you've been fined 7 times for violent acts on the ice. You've been suspended 4 times. And you have the audacity balls to file an appeal? Hell no. 10-game suspension. But you Google the Ryan Hartman hit and tell me it's not one of the most egregious acts you've ever seen. The full weight of his body on Tim Stützle's neck going down. He could have broken the guy's neck. I don't understand the violence aspect that seems to be tolerated or the liberties that players are taking with violent acts on the ice. There's open ice hits this week in the National Hockey League. To me, John, were just brutal, just absolutely disgraceful. So we got that other hockey story. The International Ice Hockey Federation, they control hockey globally, has just issued another suspension to all players in Russia and Belarus. For a 3rd year, Russians and Belarusians are not allowed to participate in any international hockey tournaments or in the Olympics. This, all the aftermath of Putin, Ukraine, etc. So, John, when you get done, you watch the Ryan Hartman hit and tell me that doesn't make you want to vomit.
It sounded like we were talking about the movie review of Slapshot, the way you were breaking that down, I mean, unbelievable. Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about has fighting gone too far in the NHL? Should it be banned? And there's a lot of fans that say, no, it's a big part of the game. We got to protect it.
Well, protecting the players.
Mm-hmm.
So much cheap stuff going on. There's still open ice hits, knee checks. Buffalo Sabres guy got flattened with an elbow to the jaw on open ice. I mean, he could have shattered his jaw. It was a terrible hit. And we still got the hits from behind, flipping guys head first into the boards. And this Ryan Hartman hit is, to me, it's just egregious. I think it's an absolute disgrace to the game. Tim Stützle was a good young player. He has a right to earn a living playing pro hockey. He doesn't have a right to be at the bottom of the pile with a Minnesota guy driving his face into the ice with all 210 pounds of his body on him.
Now, just for grins here, let's go back in time before they had to wear so much protective equipment, even before helmets. Was there still that kind of violence back in the day?
There was some. There was stick work. There were fights, but not to the magnitude now. And the difference was those were hockey players who were a lot smaller in stature. I'm not going to say it was a gentleman's game, but it was a skating game. And this, you got these guys that train 11 months of the year, and they are massively physical specimens delivering these kind of blows. Some of them using sticks, blind hits. It's horrific because the force of the blow now is a lot worse than the force of the blow, say, in 1960. That's a big issue there.
Goons.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Acting like goons.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hockey Hotline is open. Feel free to jump on board. Did you see the Ryan Hartman hit? Do you think there's way too much of the stuff going on board? Last topic on the table, as if we don't have enough here to talk about. It's called Late Breaking Stories.
Yeah, the high-speed sports wires kick it off with Team USA.
Yeah, this is really kind of cool. I want to talk about Emma Hayes, the new coach of the USA women's soccer program, who did a Zoom call this week with the media, talking about Team USA's women. They're going to play a tournament game here at Snapdragon Stadium, and it's called the She Believes Cup. It's a 4-team international exhibition, if you will. They're going to play a Snapdragon. And Emma Hayes, who came to take the Team USA job from Chelsea, she was really fun. She talked about laying a foundation for the women's U.S. Global World Cup team, a foundation of bricks and mortar. That's how she described the players. Boy, she inherits such a really good roster. And when they get this roster together, Trinity Rodman, Mal Swanson, Sophia Smith, Rose Lavelle, and this young phenom, Jadon Shaw, that's really going to be fun to watch. So she was a lot of fun to talk to. By the way, speaking of soccer, English Premier League. You know, everybody's doing separate TV contracts and special events. The EPL says no. The U.S. networks went to the English Premier League and said, John, we'd like you to schedule some of your marquee games and play them here in the States. We want to see Manchester City versus Manchester United. We want to see Arsenal versus Liverpool. Why don't you bring some of your marquee events, play them on American soil? We'll make it a mega TV event. You'll get more television revenue from us. EPL says no. We're not stripping our fans from the right to see Arsenal, Liverpool, or Man City versus Man U. That's kind of interesting. They turned them down in the English Premier League. PGA Golf. We're getting ready. They're coming back here to Torrey Ponds. There are so many stories as the schedule has now launched on the PGA Tour. One, merger talks with the LIV stalled. Absolutely flat, no negotiations at this point. Nobody's come to the table with a unique idea. How do we let the stars who jumped to LIV come back to the PGA? Nobody's got a solution to the 33% drop now in television ratings. There's a lot of arguing going on about pace of play. Do you know at Torrey Pines, we had rounds that went 5 hours and 29 minutes? Way too long. And that's bad for TV. And the guys on the tour are really upset about it. There's a proposal to pick up the pace of the game. And John, if your threesome is playing 5 hours and 29 minutes, we're either going to penalize you maybe $100,000 of your purse, or we're going to penalize you a stroke off your scorecard.
Wow.
There's also talk possibly about putting in a, quote, shot clock on every green.
Interesting.
And your threesome has to get off the fairway onto the green in a certain time frame and make the shot and move on so the next group can move forward. At Torrey Pines, they had just real problems. And then there's problems with scheduling. Golfers are of the opinion we shouldn't be competing against the NFL. Let's rearrange the PGA Tour schedule, start in January and go through September 1st. Stay away from the NFL rather than go head-to-head with the NFL every Sunday. There's been talk about that. Charlie Hoffman, Poway guy, who's won on the Pro Tour, he wrote a letter to all the players this week, mass email, say you guys need to rethink your support of the PGA Tour. And Charlie Hoffman's of the opinion too many guys are cutting back on the number of events they play, which is really unfair to each of the communities that has a PGA stop that you don't go to. He says you guys need to commit to play more stops on this tour to help each of these marketplaces be very successful instead of taking weeks off so you can go play on Tiger Woods' computerized golf event, which is blowing up in everybody's face, or going abroad to play in a big money thing in Dubai in Saudi Arabia, or playing in these special exhibitions in Vegas. Charlie Hoffman really outspoken saying, we need to support the tour. And that's just not Torrey Pines, which did not have very many of the top 50. It's what used to be the Greater Greensboro Open.
Yeah.
Outside of them, we got the Masters and we got the Grand Slams. But some of these other events now, they're not drawing hardly anybody in the field because these guys are, quote, taking weeks off, and these guys are going to other places to play in these money events. So Charlie Hoffman, very, very vocal about that. And the last topic on the table, this is pretty messy. Now, maybe it's an in-house thing. This whole Fox Sports TV sex scandal, they have now removed their senior vice president. His name is Charlie Dixon. He's been named as a sexual predator by two different women at Fox Sports that he sexually harassed and tried to convince to have affairs with him. And this comes on the heels of allegations that Joy Taylor, one of their sports anchors, was sleeping around with everybody, and Skip Bayless, before he exited, was involved in extramarital affairs with Joy Taylor, and that now another host has gone public saying Charlie Dixon's sexual misconduct with her in Los Angeles, and said, we went to human resources at Fox Sports and nobody did anything for 6 years. Real scandal. Charlie Dixon, who's second in command there at Fox, has now been removed. So, John, I just took you all over the place. You want to talk women's soccer, talk about the EPL not wanting you to see Arsenal play Liverpool, talk about Charlie Hoffman's PGA letter, or if you want to touch this hot topic on the table about the sexual misconduct at Fox Sports, the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, I'm not sure if I want to hear like sports TMZ news from Lee Hacksaw Hamilton talking about sexual allegations. I mean, it's obviously tragic and they need to take care of that, but it's just insane to me that still continues. Couple other comments. The PGA, you talk about the majors. The Torrey Pines, it used to be the Andy Williams Open, now it's the Farmers Open. That has always been sort of like the best or one of the best of the non-majors. Didn't you ever think that?
It was. And now with the LIV situation, PGA Tour came back and said, we're going to increase the purses at 8 other tournaments, aside from the Grand Slams or the Memorial. We're going to increase the purses. We're going to have 8 elite tournaments that we're going to offer $20 million purses. So the guys are drawn to those major events.
Yeah, of course.
Torrey Pines is not one of them. Greater Greensboro Open is not one of them.
That's stupid.
Orlando, Arnold Palmer. What I maintain, I said this a couple of weeks ago, okay, you got 8 tournaments that you're going to put bonus money into, make them a $20 million purse rather than a $9 million. Rotate to all these different stops, come up with a schedule so that Greater Greensboro Open, or that's what it used to be called, Greensboro or San Diego, that they get a $20 million purse sometime in a 3-year window so the guys will come here and participate. But the PGA has not looked at it that way. But Charlie Hoffman's letter to the PGA this week was, you guys need to play a lot more of these tournaments to support all these communities that have made this tour great, not just select where the money tournaments are.
Yeah, the whole sport's just so fragmented right now. Because I never really thought about that the tournaments that exist that are not PGA or LIV, that there's some, one-off thing in Vegas.
Yeah, the challenge junk and all that nobody pays attention to. Nobody watched on TV.
Interesting. It's just a couple other comments on the Premier League thing. what struck me is, we were saying, can we get some of those marquee teams, like you said, Man City, Man U, playing in America, which would be great. But you notice how when the NFL goes to Europe, we always send them the Jacksonville Jaguars. We don't usually send our best to Europe, do we?
No, well, that rotates around. I mean, you do get some good teams. Tom Brady, New England traveled. The Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and those guys have played. But it's an issue where you're trying to expand your signature and plant your flag in other countries. I understand that. But at the end of the day, you can't wreck what you have here to go seek big money, greener pastures there. It's a big, big issue.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, that these players are making. So we'll see how it all shakes out. And I love Emma Hayes. I think she's great. I mean, you could tell she was probably a defensive player back when she played in the day.
She's got a really good team.
Yeah, she's good.
And the Zoom meeting the media did, it was cool. I didn't know what kind of interview she'd be because she's British. But boy, she just boom, hit the floor running and said this, said that. And her language was so colorful. And she's got a really good team. I just went through the laundry list of young veterans. If you're a soccer fan, you scoop up the tickets at Snapdragon Stadium for this tournament game against Japan. It's coming up in February. Scoop those up, get a sneak preview of this team, and obviously Women's World Cup. If they can get all these women healthy, and some of them had injuries playing abroad, they get them all back healthy, that's a hell of a lot of firepower. And she's a really good coach.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's terrific for America, for Emma Hayes, and hopefully the sport keeps blowing up.
Okay, those are topics on the table. I've done my job. We put a lot of topics there for you to discuss. So feel free to pile in right now or message all your friends if they got opinions about Super Bowl Sunday. They got opinions about the NBA trade deadline. You got a comment about what we talked about in baseball, about hockey, or some of these other topics. Just message your people. Tell them Hacksaw's on right now with this podcast. We'd like to have you join us now in Fans Forum. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego, and the new one that's open up in Orange County at Dana Point. You got projects, they will help you. And John, before we go to Fans Forum, let's just talk about what DIXIELINE does and all the special things. By the way, they fixed our studio.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. DIXIELINE, they helped us hang the drapes, so we're making some progress. But that's who they are. That's why I always invite people, go to the website, DIXIELINE.com, and just check out all the things they offer.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. I mean, it's because it's like a hardware store, like your local neighborhood hardware store, but they also cater to contractors and, do-it-yourself builders and home repairs. So if you need doors, windows, kitchen, bath, outdoor decking, I mean, storage is a big thing. People are looking for ways to, kind of store all their knickknacks after the holiday season. They've got it all at DIXIELINE Lumber. Been in San Diego for over 100 years.
Bookcases too.
You love the bookcases. Yeah, they're a lumber yard. Yeah, you could build a bookcase, but they're more rugged than that.
DIXIELINE Lumber, they will help you. Time for Fans Forum. Oh, I think we've probably got some opinions here we're going to express. John, go ahead, pick them off the board because the board is loaded.
It's loaded, but we'll start at the front of the line. If you donate money to our show, we'll take it. You go to the front. Matthew Wallow for $4.99. Thanks, Matt. He says, hey, Lee, did you hear anything about Shield being upset that $50 million was taken from the trust to pay the Padres?
Well, that was part of the lawsuit. The quote, there was transfer of money in investments, and she was holding it against the Seidler brothers for having made this transaction. But their response was these were investments that were real positive for the trust. And, she got $42 million in transfers in real estate procedures that the trust made after Peter passed on that she requested. That was taken care of. Now, she's asked for annual payments of a significant amount of money. And Matthew Seidler, in his response to the initial lawsuit, said, we are not paying her $20 million per year out of his family trust. So there's a lot of he said, she said, but at the end of the day, this thing will never go to court. This will wind up in arbitration because that's how baseball settles ownership disputes. That's how they settled the Minnesota Twins problems with the Pollard family, the Angelos family, where the franchise finally got sold to David Rubenstein in Baltimore. So this will wind up there. Hopefully, it's not going to impact the business model. The Padres say business as normal as of today when John Seidler was unanimously approved to be the control person. But at the end of the day, the Padres still have to reduce their payroll. That's at right now at $215 million, and it sure looks to me as if there's probably going to be another big trade, somebody leaving here with a big contract and replaced by younger guys. So AJ Preller's, he's got time to still work magic, but it looks like he's going to have to work some magic because I don't think this is going to be the roster we're going to have opening day.
You know, one of the listeners on social media commented on this, and they said there's really not much to worry about here. You know, if they're moving money around, it's a thing that happens all the time with trusts. And it sounds like, you know, she was moving money around when he was in the ICU, but it sounds awful. But it's really what happens is people kind of prepare, you know, for when the big man goes down.
And the fact that it was laid out and documents were signed as what the quote succession for Peter Seidler would be in terms of who's going to run this franchise. And they all signed off on it. So that's why John Seidler is the guy. And Matthew Seidler is going to be part of this equation. But I'm led to believe that John Seidler is also going to take over operational, quote, the trust, rather than three brothers running the trust. John Seidler would be the point person and the leader of the Peter Seidler Trust.
Some Padre fans are like, man, that John Seidler guy, he's not even a Padre fan. He's still a Dodger guy.
No, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. Okay, next question.
Okay, we'll go here back to Matt because he's always giving us money and we'll take it. Thank you, Matt. Ballmer looks sad that Luca is what he always wanted.
Well, true, but you know, Steve Ballmer has tried very hard to fix the Clippers, change the Clippers, position the Clippers to be a championship team, and he's done it twice now in both years. Both times he did it, his team got destroyed by injuries. He doesn't have a lot of cap space right now, and that becomes a big issue. But he does have all his draft picks, which the Lakers do not. What you have with the Lakers is what you're going to have with the Lakers through the year that LeBron James leaves. Once LeBron retires, which might be 2 years out, you're going to have $51 million cap space to use. But they have no way to make any trades, any other acquisitions, because they have no other assets to use now. They don't have a draft pick, do not have a number one pick through, I think it's 2031 through that draft. So this is what you got. It'll be fun to see. It was fun to see how Luka plays. We'll see if Mark Williams can actually physically hold up, because he's missed so many games in Charlotte with a back injury. And that's tough for a guy supposed to be a jumping jack forward and all the physical combat in the paint. So this is a bit of a question mark as it relates to the Lakers. He's got great upside. There's no doubt when he's been healthy. That kid played really well in Charlotte. That kid's not played a lot.
What's your take on this whole fitness issue with Luka? You think he's got a problem?
He always looks big to me,
Mm-hmm.
but then so does Nikola Jokic. And what's the difference? Luka and Joker are MVPs in the league. You know, they led the teams to the NBA Finals, and one of them won a ring already. So now, can he grow and mature? Will he be conditioned differently? Maybe. Only time will tell. But obviously, as he exited Dallas, those stories just rumored about conditioning and lack of dedication off the floor. But boy, he's still a great player. If that dude's 266 and out of shape, he's still a great player.
Oh, he's unbelievable. And I've just seen a lot of outtakes lately about kind of how he is as a person, kind of always ribbing his teammates, having fun out there. And by the way, one of the listeners also corrected you. They said that you had referenced, I think, that Luka was from Serbia, but he's really from Slovenia.
Slovenia. Okay. My bad.
And that's where First Lady Melania Trump is from Slovenia. You ever been there?
No.
It's
didn't make that road trip.
I went there once, and we were driving in a car from Italy into Croatia. We stopped in Slovenia. There's a place called Lake Bled, and it's this little lake, and there's an island in the middle of the lake, and on top of that island is a castle. I mean, it's magical, you know. So what a great place! And the people in Slovenia were terrific. So I'm looking forward to learning more about Luka.
Good guy, good player. We'll see if he has any physical woes here, but. You know, the unique part of what the Lakers have done is they now have a 25-year-old superstar and they have a 23-year-old young center. So those guys are the cornerstones going forward in this twilight of LeBron James' career.
Yeah, it's going to be neat. We'll see how it goes.
Next one.
Okay, let's go to Callan. He goes, afternoon, gents. I had a friend ask me on Monday night, with all the NBA trades, what I thought was the best sports trade deadline. I think they're all equally exciting. What do you think?
Well, baseball historically, their trade deadline has been superb. The NBA trade deadline has really grown a lot in the last couple of years. But I think a lot of the NBA, Callum, is being driven by teams dumping contracts. I don't want this guy. You can have his contract. The trades, the Miami trade, Jimmy Butler, that was triggered by who Butler has become as a person and the problem he's created. But it also had to do with a lot of Miami getting expiring contracts. You know, they got one contract from Golden State, Andrew Wiggins. That's $28 million at the end of the year that they get cap space when Wiggins is not re-signed. Another one was a $13 million acquisition. So, I mean, Miami, I think, in total picked up like $51 million in expiring contracts. So dumping contracts is kind of part and parcel of what the NBA has become. National Hockey League, a lot of trades coming up with the March deadline. A chunk of that's got to do with guys that are making a significant amount of money. The teams just, they're up against the wall, and the only way they're going to get breathing room for off-season acquisitions is move contracts now. So I would swear to you that probably half the NHL trades kind of contract driven. I would say 2/3 of the NBA trades are contract driven. Baseball is still, that's kind of old school. That's player for player. And NFL trade deadline is changed because of the new breed of general manager, the Ivy Leaguers, as I call them. There are more trades in the NFL, but not to the magnitude of there are 25 trades since today is Thursday. 25 trades since Tuesday in the NBA. Man, that's a lot of transactions.
That's a lot of scrib notes right there for all you're keeping track of. To me, the MLB trade deadline has sort of a romantic kind of a feel about it because
history.
It's the history and you know, it was like a chance for a team could really transform themselves. If your team was contending and they were going all in, it was like a magical moment. And you couldn't wait to tell your friends, "Oh my God, we just got this guy and we got rid of that guy." And it was like just an explosion of excitement.
Yeah, because they have the winter baseball meetings. It's like another trade deadline too, which is kind of cool. Hot stove league.
Yeah. So hopefully the whole NIL transfer portal goes this way. But I know that even the NFL trade deadline used to be kind of no news. And lately it's been pretty volatile as well.
New breed of general manager. I didn't draft you. I don't think you can play. I don't give a crap. Now, some of these guys take salary cap hits by doing that. But this new breed of general manager, the guys from Harvard, they're going to operate by their own standards. And just because the last general manager made a mistake, I'm not keeping you.
Yeah,
it's a different world.
It is a different world.
Thank you, Callum.
Okay, let's go down the list. We'll go here to Carlos. And Carlos says, Hacksaw, what do you think of the latest Lakers move acquiring a big man from Charlotte, only 23 years old? How about that blowout Lakers-Clippers game? The Lakers are back. Go Kings, go.
Well, we can't base the whole Lakers season just on one lopsided win against a Clippers team that for some reason seemed really disengaged. They didn't play very well at all. And the Lakers came out. I mean, I watched that thing. Lakers hit 12 of the first 15 shots. Lakers hit five threes in the first 8 minutes. But that's one game. One game does not impact a whole season, and now obviously the whole chemistry has changed. So I'll be intrigued to see Luka once he gets back totally healthy with King James. And in terms of Mark Williams, I just have reservations. And this kid has had back injuries. Like I said, he's played 82 games. He's missed 128 games in 2.5 years in Charlotte. That's an iffy track record, and he's playing a position in which there's a lot of jumping, a lot of pounding. You're going to get knocked down and all that. And he's got a history of back injuries now. So I'd be a little bit concerned about that. You better enjoy, if you're a Laker fan, you better enjoy your team because they have no way to get better. If anything happens, there's no way they're going to be able to improve this product. So enjoy what you've got here with Luka. And hopefully this kid holds up and you got the twilight of the career LeBron, which I still think he's got good basketball left, but they have no depth at all. And they have no way to make anything better if something happens.
Isn't this whole Dalton Connect thing kind of weird? I mean, we were all excited about him.
Oh, wait.
What?
Do you want me? I'll just go ahead on my cell phone and I can invoke the day after the NBA draft. I'll invoke the comments I made.
Okay, tell me.
I said, what came out of my mouth after they drafted Dalton Connect?
If I thought you were pretty high on the pick.
I asked the question, him? There where they selected him? Yeah, he can shoot the hell out of the ball. I don't think he's got any foot quickness to be able to play NBA defense. And why did they hit the eject button on Dalton Connect in the middle of the night?
Yeah,
this week?
Yeah.
A, because he was erratic shooting the three. And B, he could not play defense. He's slow of foot.
Interesting.
And what did your co-host, loudmouth talk show host on this side of the table say the day after the draft?
Okay.
Why him?
I'm going to have to go back. Maybe one of the listeners on YouTube can go back and check that out. So, yeah, we're going to find out more about this thing. But I just think the Lakers, if things don't go their way and they don't win it with LeBron, they're going to be screwed for a long period of time.
Well, they'll be screwed because they're going to have Luka. And they will have LeBron's cap money once LeBron steps aside. But as I say, when you don't have any number one picks at all through 2031, how are you gonna get better? Big issue. Okay.
Big issue.
Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Lenny, the cool down Dawson. Hey, Lee, the coaching edge goes to the Chiefs by far. Andy Reid had 2 weeks to prepare.
As we did our Super Bowl breakdown, mad scientist, not just him, and he's brilliant. Spagnuolo's unbelievable too. Now, that being said, I just don't know how Kansas City's defense holds up against the best offensive line in pro football. And the flip side, I just don't know how Kansas City's defense holds up trying to stop Saquon Barkley and then having the people to go after Jalen Hurts. I just happen to think the Eagles get the plus mark in both the offensive line and the defensive line. And I don't know how Kansas City's offensive front is going to contain Carter and all these other guys that Philadelphia's got. I mean, those guys are warriors up front for Philadelphia. Philadelphia's front seven might be as physical as anybody. And now Philadelphia's, all their young guys on the back end with Darius Slay, they have no fear. They'll man coverage. They'll single coverage on all those receivers because those kids can run. I think Philadelphia's a really complete team. You may dislike me, but I think you'll be buying me Philly cheesesteaks when the Super Bowl's over on Sunday night.
You know, it's funny because you talk about how Andy Reid has 2 weeks to prepare.
Yes.
And, he's always cooking up a scheme. And I remember, like, in one of the Super Bowls, didn't he have, like, Travis Kelce and the Wildcat? And, and just some of these kind of creative things. What were some of the ones that you liked the most?
I just look at the formation and say, holy crap, I've never seen that before. And I watch the games. I love the big plays. But I watch formations. I watch motion. And I sit there at home and I watch them. They went to a wing T in the game against Buffalo. They lined up Kelce, another tight end, and a running back. I think it was Kareem Hunt behind Mahomes. I'd never seen that before.
Oh, wow.
Not in the NFL. They ran a wing T. Then they ran pistol with Kelce in the backfield with both the Pacheco and Hill. Never seen that before. And what they do offer it, then put guys in motion. Defense leans one way, and Mahomes hip pockets and runs for a first down. He had 5 rushing first downs, most of them off weird formations that Buffalo had never seen. So that's what Andy Reid does. And I'll give you just a quick 30-second flashback. This is the 30th anniversary of the Chargers, the San Diego Chargers, going to the Super Bowl against the 49ers. And they got devastated, and they got blown out, and Steve Young threw 6 touchdown passes, and you all know that history. And I told a story that I talked to Bobby Ross when we were coming home, and everybody was just emotionally devastated that they got destroyed by the 49ers. They had a great offense. And Bobby said, Lee, we broke down over 17 games. The last 17 games that 49ers had played, John, we broke down every formation. We thought we had every formation that they'd run and how to defend it. And they got into that Super Bowl game, and the first 6 snaps, they ran 6 formations the Chargers had never seen. And they scored 2 touchdowns on 6 plays, and it was 14-0, and the game was over. And I'll forever close my eyes, and I'll see Junior Seau at middle linebacker trying to reset the secondary because of these weird formations. They lined up Jerry Rice in the backfield. They lined up the star running back Ricky Waters in the slot. They had Brent Jones and Jerry Rice in the backfield. And the Chargers, Junior's trying to direct traffic while the ball's getting snapped. And these guys are running wide open down the middle and the seam, and 2 touchdown passes just like that. And Bobby said, we scripted 17 games. We found every formation they'd ever run. We thought we had it all devised, and they hit us with 6 formations on the first 6 plays we never saw. 14-0, Super Bowl over.
Well, that was George Seifert, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and he was a defensive coach.
Yes, but he inherited everything from Bill Walsh.
Okay, so he's had all that. I remember Bill Walsh used to always script the first 10 or 20 plays.
Well, everybody does, but then they script it with stuff you'd never seen. That's what happened. That's what the Chiefs did to Buffalo. That's what the Chiefs do every year in postseason. They run formations you've never seen on video. And now you got to make an adjustment. And it's just not the formations. Then they do stuff with motion. They show you run one thing with motion, and you think, okay, I'm watching Kelsey go in motion, or I'm watching Hollywood Brown go in motion. And they run a typical play off the motion, but you're defending the motion, and there's Mahomes going up the seam for a 21-yard run off the package that just showed at the line of scrimmage. It's just the chess game. That's what it is.
It is. And then, Mahomes takes it to another level where he's about to get hit, or he'll slow down a little bit and try to entrap the penalty on the hit for the quarterback. Yeah. There'll be some of that too.
Mahomes is going to have his hands full though, because Jalen Carter and that fraternity up front, they're damn good. They are really good. Okay, let's move on.
Moving on. Let's go to Joey, because I like the Sam Darnold rumor for the Raiders.
Anything's possible. I mean, it's a clean piece of paper as it relates to the Raiders. And now, as Sam Darnold dropped this hint at the Super Bowl this week on Press Row. He said, I'm enthralled. You sure that's an adverb, not an adjective? Yeah.
So that's a verb.
Adverb. I'm enthralled to think sitting down with Tom Brady talking offense, working under Chip Kelly as coordinator, playing for Pete Carroll and all his energy. So they're going to have a chance to get a guy. Now the question is, what's the price tag? Sam Darnold going to ask for $35 million based on one really good year in Minnesota. Do they have the brass to trade up? Could they get as high as number 2 and maybe get Shadur Sanders? I mean, there'd be a lot of moving parts. Once we're through the Super Bowl, then we get to the offseason in the NFL and the draft and free agency. But the one thing is they got 10 draft picks and they have $107 million in cap space. So, Joe, I agree with you. It's going to be fun following what the Raider Nation does, because they got to get a quarterback. Desperate to get a quarterback.
Yeah, the Darnold just makes too much sense right here. And
if that's the real Sam Darnold,
or
is this an invention of Kevin O'Connell's brilliance?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because wouldn't it be something though if Sam Darnold, because was he like a first-round pick?
Yeah, out of USC.
Yeah, and he's like a San Juan Capistrano guy or something.
In a bad situation with the Jets, and then he's been all over the place. Got cut a couple times. Went to Carolina. That turned out to be a disaster. But that's stud quarterback. Bad team around him.
So you kind of root for his success, and imagine now going to the Raiders and being the savior of the Raiders with Tom Brady by your side.
So are you mandating to me, voice of the Chargers and Seahawks, longtime talk show, are you mandating I have to root for the Raiders if Darnold winds up there? Or are you addressing everybody there that's waiting to get on?
I think you're secretly hoping Sam Darnold reverts to his old form, so then they'll be the silver and bleak.
No, I'm fascinated too. I really am. Is fascinated an adjective or an adverb? Sam Darnold used enthralled, but we'll see where this goes. This will be fun once we get beyond Super Bowl Sunday. Let's move on.
Okay, let's go here to Foul Play Rob. He goes, would Anthony Richardson be a plan A or B if the Rams traded Stafford away?
Item 1, Stafford is coming back. He's already informed them. Item 2, they're going to get a contract extension done. It's going to have more guaranteed money. It's probably a 2-year deal, or maybe 1 year and an option. It's up to Stafford at age 37 how much longer he wants to play, because he has taken a lot of hits. He's had a bunch of injuries, but he's the catalyst that kind of drives this thing. So Stafford's there. Anthony Richardson at Indianapolis, there's a growth thing that has to happen with him. He's 2 years into his career. He's had 3 major injuries. There's a huge question. He's got to become a, quote, student of the game, and he's not there yet, but they've kind of committed. They're going to continue to develop him. So Stafford's the guy in L.A., and Richardson is going to be in Indianapolis.
I'm kind of rooting for Richardson. I mean, because he showed us something. I mean,
he's a stud. He's a great athlete, but it's more than athletic ability. His athleticism has gotten him killed. That's why he's had so many injuries. But you have to be a student of the game. And the light bulb goes on. It's not like everybody can be Patrick Mahomes, who's just fanatical about being fanatical in terms of preparation.
Now, what I'm trying to remember some of these Mahomes stats, but has it been 5 or 6 AFC championships in a row? And 6 out of the last 7 Super Bowls?
This is his 5th Super Bowl in 7 years.
Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, and his record in postseason is now 17-3, which is phenomenal.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just incredible.
And again, he's quarterbacking for a mad scientist.
Wow.
It's cool. I mean, appreciate the guy. People walking around. I run into people all the time here in San Diego that are just absolute grudge mode. wait a minute. Appreciate the accomplishment of what Kansas City is.
Oh, yeah.
This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't think we'll ever see, because of the injury factor in the NFL and free agency has changed the landscape, ever see the potential to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. So appreciate the accomplishment, even if you hate the color red. But I mean, what they've done, and like we did in our preview, those 2 general managers, the construction of those 2 rosters in KC and Philly, absolutely amazing what Roseman and Veach have done, and they get no credit at all. I mean, those organizations, you wish you had that type of leadership with that type of IQ to scout, sign, draft, and bring in quality players.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting argument, is that there is a salary cap in the NFL. More so, it's harder than in other sports, but yet we've got the Chiefs winning all the time because they have a great organization.
Exactly.
So it kind of goes to show you, like, what is the real thing? Is it money? Is it leadership that really makes a team great?
Football IQ.
Yeah.
They don't make mistakes on draft picks. Look, when I broke down that list for you, how many draft picks are in their starting 22? One team has 14 of their 22 are their own players. The other has 15. It's fabulous.
Yeah, the track record is great.
Yeah, the antithesis is the freak Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. Those guys are in trouble.
Yeah.
Hey, but just how is it possible that a quarterback as great as Patrick Mahomes is ended up going to Texas Tech?
His dad was from there. He's a Texas kid. I don't think he was highly recruited out of high school. And again, he had to be in a special offense to work with his skills. Not everybody was running what Texas Tech ran, And so Kansas City, when the draft board came, people were a little suspect. Oh, yeah, he put up great numbers, but he's a gimmick guy on a gimmick offense. Yeah, Kansas City traded up to get him. A lot of people bypassed him. But the theory was, Andy Reid, I can run that offense. Let's get him as the trigger man. We'll run it. And he's run it. He's had no catastrophic injuries. He's been dinged a little bit. He's had no catastrophic injuries at all. I was just a marquee player.
I just remember that first year he was in the league and he was just blowing everybody away.
He was doing stuff that nobody ever seen. That's so unorthodox.
Exactly. Yeah. And they would say he was playing like quarterback, like a double play combination plays in baseball with these little sidearm flips and these unusual throws.
Yeah. I mean, his ability to create a play out of a broken play and then kill you, throwing from every arm slot possible. Elway used to do some of that by moving the pocket. This is the young John Elway out of Stanford, but he no way athletically is he equal to what Patrick Mahomes has been. So then we got Mahomes doing it, and all of a sudden here comes Lamar Jackson. Now, Jackson's problem is he didn't have a lot of players around him, and Jackson's problem was he kept turning the football over for all the dynamic plays he would make downfield. He made massive chunk plays. He got better and better, and for this is the best group of players Baltimore ever had around Lamar Jackson. And they fell apart in the playoffs because he turned it over, and the weather elements in Buffalo worked against him. But yeah, Mahomes is the beginning of the changing of the quarterback stature. Lamar Jackson was the next one. Jordan Love might be the next one in line in terms of doing things uniquely because they're so athletic. And maybe the whole league is going to change because now everybody is gravitating towards, hey, can we find one of those guys?
Yeah, it just makes you wonder what the future is going to be like.
Sure. No, concur.
Okay, let's keep going. We'll go a little Dodger talk here with Val. Hey, Dodgers have always been known for having a strong farm system. Remember when they had 5 straight years of Rookie of the Year awards?
Oh, yeah. Running through the Steve Sachs era, and the first baseman was it Mike Marshall or Greg Brock. And historically, farm system has always been special with the Dodgers. And now the unique thing is Baseball America and MLB.com just put out the rankings of the farm systems. And here's the Dodgers with their record-setting spending spree and their superstar everyday major league lineup. And now they're ranked 3rd in all of baseball for what they have in the farm system, despite all the surgeries to their pitchers. The Dodgers are just spectacular. Padres have got 2 really good young players at Class A or maybe Double A, but the Padres are ranked 28th because A.J. Preller has traded so many guys away. There's just not a lot there in terms of numbers, and Angels just seem to be hopeless. They're at number 30. Now, in defense of the Halos, they've force-fed and they've rushed all their draft picks to the top, and that's why they lost 99 games. So you got to invest. You have to have patience. And you hope you can get through the injury factor and keep them there. And if you have a general manager that keeps trading them, that's going to work against you. And that's where we are in San Diego compared to where they are at Dodger Stadium.
Dodgers. So that run, I remember 5-0. You talk about sacks. I think Eric Karros, Mike Piazza,
Sure,
Raul Mondesi maybe was in that list. And then that was right around the time, I think, when the Dodgers had Pedro Martinez, didn't they?
Yep.
Because he had the older brother played there with the Dodgers.
Ramon.
Yeah. And then I think he ended up getting sent to Montreal.
Right.
And then eventually from there to Boston.
Right. I wasn't Pedro Guerrero part of that mix too, I think.
Oh, yeah. I remember that guy. Yeah. But that was when the Dodgers had all these superstars, but they still never won that much in the 90s. Right?
Yeah, I think there were pitching issues there somewhere along the way.
Was that the McCourt era? Or was that more in the 2000s?
McCourt had to be in the early 2000s. That was a dark era that turned out to be.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on.
Moving on. All right, let's go here. We'll go to David, a little more Dodgers talk. Dodgers are going to sell out all away games this year. People want to hate them, but people want good baseball, so they will come. Rockies come to town. I can get a ticket same day. Dodgers, good luck.
It is interesting. The owners' meetings are still going on in West Palm Beach, and one of the things that was going to be discussed, I think either today or tomorrow, the owners are going to talk about a salary cap. Despite what Tony Clark saying, we will never sit and discuss that. The owners are talking about a salary cap because they want balance, competitive balance in baseball. They don't want a Colorado Rockies situation, a Pittsburgh Pirates situation, etc. Now, that conversation probably also has to include the words Florida spending. So if you're going to hard cap or you keep the luxury tax in place, there has to be a Florida spending that forces the Miami Marlins and Tampa Bay to spend all their revenue streams that they're getting and reinvest it into their major league roster. I'll guarantee you, if there's a Florida spending, there will be a group of second-tier major league pitchers or second-tier bats who are good players, veteran guys, who will wind up going to Tampa and Miami because that's where the payday is. And if these guys go to Tampa, Miami, Pittsburgh, Detroit, that's going to make them better teams. So now you got a much more balanced competitive league than what we've got right now. I mean, Dodger fan loves the franchise. Dodger fan will sell out in LA. They'll sell out every stadium that they go play in. But is it, again, the end of the day argument, John, is it good to have 5 great teams in baseball and 25 teams that can't compete because there's economic issues in a lot of other places and owners are not spending? You tell me what's good for the game.
You know, it's like the NBA has the Washington Wizards, and the NFL even has the Jaguars, and there's always programs that are in disarray. But I think the Dodgers, that's like, if you are living in Chicago, you want to go see a game at Wrigley, that's the game you're going to buy. But after the 2017 World Series, I remember the fans really booing the Houston Astros. And that lasted for a couple of years.
Well, that's the garbage can gate thing. Well, but that's because they were cheaters, not just dominant players. They cheated.
So I don't know. I think it's questionable to see if the booing of the Dodgers is different than the booing of the Astros.
Oh, I think it is.
Is it going to be louder? Is it going to be more hateful? I mean, I'm curious what the vibe is going to be.
Yeah. But you still have incompetence and ownership. Even if you have a Florida spending, that does not guarantee you don't have a 121-loss Chicago White Sox team because their front office has screwed that thing up so badly, or all the players they invested in all bombed. You know, there was about, I'd say 24 months ago, you looked at the White Sox roster and you thought, holy cow, look at all these young Caribbean players. Eloy Jimenez, Moncada, a couple others. And you thought...
Luis Robert.
You thought, they won the bidding war. They signed them all. They all washed out. They all got hurt. None of them have done anything. And then the White Sox wind up with old players that they paid too much money for, Jose Abreu, et cetera. They wind up with 121 losses and just absolute god-awful product on the field. So, yeah, you could have a luxury tax in place. You can have a Florida spending, but you got to make sure your baseball people are making the right decisions as it relates to acquisitions.
The White Sox traded Fernando Tatis Jr. for James Shields.
And a bad contract.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a great example of what's wrong with that organization. You're talking about Miami, and I was reading in the Best 15 that the Marlins are thinking about trading for bigger contracts if the other team subsidizes them.
Well, if the other team will pay some of the money on the contract, yeah, maybe. But the union is also really focusing on these guys who are not spending. I mean, it went after Tampa Bay. That's why the Oakland Athletics made 3 deals in the offseason to get Luis Soriano and a few other major league pitchers, because the union's targeting those guys to discipline them for not doing it. So that's happened. By the way, speaking of names in the news, your left fielder has a contract today.
Who's that?
Tommy Pham.
Oh, he got signed.
He's going to Pittsburgh.
Really?
Okay. Signed a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I have a love-hate relationship with Tommy Pham.
Yeah, he's on his 10th team in 12 years.
Yeah, but that dude, man, he's going to fight, and he wants to win. And I just hope he doesn't have like a hamate bone snap we had here in San Diego.
Staying power's a little suspect everywhere. He played for 3 teams last season, but that just happened before we came on the air.
But you heard his story, because he grew up in Vegas, and I think he comes from a Vietnamese family,
yeah.
And he had, I think his dad was in prison or something like that. And there were other families in Vegas when he was young that played travel ball that they sort of sponsored him, took him under his wing, and he got to play a lot of ball. But he came from the tough side of the tracks.
It's kind of like he's in grudge mode all the time. And that's okay. I mean, he had a couple real good years with St. Louis, but then they moved him and he's bounced all over the place. And he's had just a lot of junk off the field. But so he got a 1-year contract in Pittsburgh as pitchers and catchers report. Okay, let's take a couple more here.
Okay, a couple more, and there's some comments here about the big hit in the NHL. Hartman or Perfetti. Hartman hit on Ehlers.
Exactly. Again, Hartman has been disciplined 4 times, suspended. He's been fined 7 times. If you saw the hit, and John's going to go look at the hit when we're done, you saw the hit that he put on that Ottawa player, he could have broken the guy's neck. And then Hartman has the audacity to appeal this 10-game suspension. The league says absolutely not, repeat offender. There's a bigger issue, though, in the league, Cowboy. And I'm sure he's from the O Canada network. There's a bigger issue in the NHL about lack of respect player to player. I put this guy out of the game, it's good for my team. He put this guy out of the game and ended his career. How's that good for hockey? There's got to be stronger penalties against guys who commit violent acts on the ice and are repeat offenders. Because I'm allowed to have a career in the NHL. I should not have to have a risk coming across the blue line that somebody's going to poleaxe me and break my neck or knee check me and destroy my knee. League's got to do a better job, and I don't think they've done a good job. The violence I have seen in terms of the fights and the hits this year, it's the worst I've seen in 3 to 4 or 5 years. And the league was cleaning this thing up, and now it seems they've just gotten away. And with apologies to everybody in the old Canada network, I just don't think violent acts on the ice make the game better. I think that's a terrible blight. I might be old school, but you're talking about somebody who came out of the slapshot leagues, and that was really bad hockey. That was bad violent hockey. And now I'm really turned off by that because these guys have a right to earn a living.
They do. I mean, here Gary has a follow-up on this. He says the NHL suspension decisions are the worst of the 4 major sports. They always give out short suspensions for dangerous or dirty hits.
Yeah. And if you got repeat offenders, everybody that does this, you should double the last suspension he had. If there's another Ryan Hartman incident in Minnesota, they should suspend his ass for 20 games and take 20 game checks away. But they just have to clean this thing up because you have a right, Gary, to earn a contract playing for the Winnipeg Jets or the Minnesota Wild. Why does the defenseman in Edmonton have a right to end your career with a very dangerous hit? And, when you clip guys at center ice, these guys who do knee-on-knee checks, you run the risk of destroying your own knee at the same time. Why would you do that? Why would the league allow that to happen? I mean, Gary Bettman's done some great things in the NHL, but this discipline issue is so erratic. It just drives me out of my mind because it's a great game. It's not a great game when you got all these guys injured.
You've got to believe that they know that the fighting element is something that fans want to see. And even though it's a little bit like WWE, these guys are getting knocked around. They get concussions, CTE. Mm-hmm. It's a delicate thing because they can't really say maybe what they're thinking. And that is, this is entertainment. We want to sell tickets. We want violence.
I've seen some clips on hockey that are just so, in the minor leagues, is so brutal. And my responses, I put it up on Twitter a couple times. I said, these two guys will be filing to become members of the CTE club in about 5 years. And all you need is go back and look at how many NHL players have died. Some have committed suicide by virtue of concussions, brain damage, and then they do the autopsies at Boston University, and they all got grade 3, grade 4 CTE because of this.
Yeah.
And this was allowed to happen. And I get a real problem with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, keep moving. All right, let's go here to Larry, talk about the Lakers. He goes, LeBron Barron just didn't like Anthony Davis. I saw that coming and him getting traded somewhere.
You know, it's a real interesting angle to the story that broke this morning, that in the aftermath of the overnight deal, they traded Dalton Connect in the #1 pick, and they got Mark Williams out of Charlotte. Evidently, Rob Pelinka met privately after Luka got here, and they talked about the style of center that Luka Doncic wanted to play around. High post, passer, cut, be able to run pick and rolls, cuts, and Mark Williams, that was his strength. It's interesting that Pelinka canvassed Doncic. He didn't talk to LeBron. He talked to Doncic about the kind of post guy that Doncic thought would play great his game. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I mean, well, this is a whole new era now.
So LeBron's no longer player, captain, pseudo general manager.
Yeah, exactly. So they better win this year, because you don't know what's going to happen next year.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, we move on. I think it's time to go check out some social media here. So actually, here's one from John. He goes, nothing to contribute today. Caps and Flyers coming up. Ovi at 878, 17 to go.
Yeah, Alexander Ovechkin is 17 goals back of Wayne Gretzky's legendary record. I never thought, and again, I broadcast hockey before I came here to be the voice of the Chargers and have a career in sports talk and do NFL play-by-play. I never thought I'd ever see anybody break Gordie Howe's record of 801 goals, and Gretzky just blew by it. And now Gretzky is, I think he wound up with 894. So Ovechkin, he's got 17 to go to get to 895. I mean, he's a tremendous player, big and physical. What is he, age 38 maybe? If I'm wrong, John will correct me, but what an accomplishment. I never thought we'd see anybody go beyond 801, and Gretzky did it. Now Ovi's about to do it.
Yeah, that's special. I mean, people racking up the numbers.
Tremendous. Okay, move on.
Moving on. Let's go here to Hector. And he goes, taking a break from the Dodgers talk for John's sake. Thanks. Lee, looking forward to San Diego joining the MLS. And look, they get to see a championship banner raise first game. Go Galaxy.
Yeah, they're going to play the Galaxy right out of the gate here in a couple weeks as they move into the month of February. Fascinated to see. They've built this thing from the goal out. They've acquired a number of veteran defenders and midfielders. I want to know if they have enough firepower to go with Chucky Lozano from Mexico. We'll find out as the season starts. I think it's going to be a slow growth process. It's going to be fun. I'll be honest with you. I pay some attention to MLS. I just don't have enough hours in the day to do it all. I do pay an enormous amount of attention to the World Cup. And I'm so excited with what Mauricio has brought to the men's side, and obviously having the chance to talk to Emma Hayes. And I know what the women are all about. I just can't wait for World Cup 2026 to show up, because I think America's got two really good teams.
I think it's going to be fun when this team shows up here in San Diego, starts playing MLS, because San Diego's a great soccer community. They always get great ratings for the World Cup, and this, granted, it is sort of minor league. It's not the EPL. It's not,
La Liga in Spain.
Yeah,
and France.
It's none of that. But at least it's a local team. We can follow them, and hopefully they get great support. And I know the Wave on the women's side got great support
out of the gate,
but then everything went to hell with their ownership and their management. So if these guys, Manny Machado is one of the owners of this new FC team.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens here. I'm all for it. I kind of want to follow them. I want to kind of dig in and really get to know these players.
We'll do that. Okay, let's go to social media. What else you got?
What else you got here in social media? Let's roll down the list here. Okay, let's talk NFL. And this is with DF2324. He goes, I'm in Chicago and love the Raiders, but come on, guy. The Raiders are going to be bad, real bad. Love the coaching hire and the GM. Good energy, but the Raiders will be the Raiders and the Bears will be the Bears.
I don't know that I necessarily agree that, because the Raiders have so much cap space, and the Raiders have 10 draft picks, and the Raiders have Pete Carroll's energy, Chip Kelly's X's and O's brilliance as a play caller, and they got Tom Brady's insight as a consultant. So I think they can flip this a lot quicker if they get the right quarterback. And I'm not sure who the quarterback's going to be. Is it Sam Darnold? Was Sam Darnold great in Minnesota because Sam Darnold finally had good players around him? Was it great because of Kevin O'Connell? Or did he regress at the end of the season when they kind of got creamed last couple of games? There's all kinds of names out there. Is Russell Wilson got any gas left in the tank? But he played for Pete, and they played really, really well. And Russell Wilson seems to be cut from the cloth of the type of scrambling quarterback that Chip Kelly wants. So there's going to be a wide variety of guys out there. Or do they trade? But to go from where they are in the draft, what are they, 12, I think, in the first round? Or maybe it's 6. But to try to get one or two, you got to overpay. Are you going to get the quarterback out of Miami? Or are you going to get Deion's kid out of Colorado? That remains to be seen.
Doesn't it feel like a different vibe with the Raiders now with Tom Brady? I mean, it's like you kind of have, at least for me as a former Raider fan in my youth, there's hope, I think, for Raider Nation.
Well, it's that hope because of Brady's intelligence, the hope because of Pete Carroll's energy, and the hope because of Chip Kelly's X's and O's creativeness. That's hope. But you got to have a roster to make sure you can execute.
Well, people are going to want to play there that otherwise wouldn't have wanted to play there.
I agree with you.
So, and the Bears, the National Football League is better when both of these franchises are relevant.
And let's just see what Ben Johnson does with Caleb Williams. I think that'll be positive. Now, they got to fix the rest of it. But again, teaching Caleb Williams what to do and not to do with pressure, that'll come from that new head coach, because Caleb Williams, he got sacked 68 times because he ran himself into quarterback sacks. This isn't USC where you can run around. Here you run around, you get plastered.
Yeah.
So that new coaching staff will change how he approaches the line of scrimmage, how he reads. Everybody that I've gotten information from said he is a hell of a student of the game. He's a smart guy. And he's a real gifted athlete. The thing is not to get him killed. And the thing is have him make better decisions, which means get the ball out of there or throw it away. Don't take sacks. Don't drop back 18 yards trying to run away from pressure because you wind up getting nailed anyhow. That's a learning curve experience, maturity thing.
What's interesting is, he was at Oklahoma as a freshman. And I remember Spencer Rattler was the starting quarterback, and he was struggling, even though he was like a really high profile, signee at Oklahoma. And then Lincoln Riley made the switch, and he had Caleb Williams start over Rattler. And he was dynamic, explosive. He was doing things on the field that Rattler never thought about.
Oh, he's more of an athlete than Rattler.
Oh, for sure. And he would, some of these plays he'd pull out of his back pocket. It was just tremendous. But if you notice that Spencer Rattler now is with the Saints?
Yeah, he started games at the end of the season because they were so busted up with injuries, but he's just a guy.
Yeah, at the NFL level, he is just kind of a guy. Yeah.
He's not Caleb Williams, trust me.
No, he's not.
Let's do one more here.
Okay, let's talk Padres, and this is with Tony. He goes, why include LA in your Padre inner turmoil? Hacksaw, what bothers me the most is you complain too much. Petco is still going to sell out no matter what the record is. They're going to bring in the revenue. Why are you crying? They're going to have more wins than losses. They probably will make a wild card. Why are you crying?
I'm not crying. I'm just giving you the facts. The facts is the ownership has told them this payroll is going to be cut. Their payroll as of lunchtime today was $215. That's after they signed Michael King. That ownership has said payroll must come down to under 200. So that means there's going to be at least 15 million that has to leave that payroll by virtue of a trade. And that might be Dylan Cease. It might be Luis Ariz. I don't think it's going to be Cronenworth. But now if you trade guys who are cornerstones to your lineup, that means you have less in the lineup. You're going to get young guys back, but who's to say the pitcher they get is equal to Dylan Cease at age 24? So I'm not crying and whining. I'm just giving you the facts of where we are right now. And give AJ Preller a window. He's still got time to do this. But I do think there will be transactions. If they got to go from 215 to under 200, that's 15 mil. If they got to go down to 190, that's 25 million he's got to remove from that payroll. I'm just quoting you the numbers that are there. I'm not whining or crying about it. I'm just telling you they did business. This is what they committed to. This is what owners have told him he's got to spend. So somebody's got to vacate San Diego. You think I'm whining and crying? I'm not. I'm giving you the facts, Jack.
No, but people always say that. You always complaining. You're old grouchy man. You know, they're always getting on your case about that. But you know what's funny is if you think about what the Padres have right now, you know, and then time warp yourself 10 years in, you know, backwards in time, you'd be overjoyed.
Sure.
By having Tatis and Machado and Jackson Merrill and Dylan Cease and Michael King, and hopefully everyone's still on the roster when opening day comes. They still do have a good team. You know, they're going to still be a wild card, hopefully, but there's no way they're going to be winning over 100 games or even over 90. I mean, there's just no way.
With apologies, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm crying on this. Let's go stand in this corner. I lose my mind when I think about last October. I lose my mind when I think about one game away from beating the Dodgers in the playoffs.
It was brutal.
And I swear to you, they would have won the National League Championship Series against the Mets.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. But they're one game away from beating the Dodgers, and they go 24 straight innings without a run, and the whole thing evaporates. And I think about that now, and I maintain they have a short window to do this, and they burned away one of the years in which they could do it. And now with the payroll deductions that owners have mandated they must do, that second window, that might be closing. And if that's the case, game over, because they got nothing. The farm system is going to be able to replace what they're getting.
Yeah, but AJ is going to rebuild. He's going to restock the shelves. I got to get one more comment in here from Aztec Mike.
Okay.
Yes.
Here we go.
Here we go. I want to get his comment in here, and here he goes. He goes, "Hey, Saw, could barely hear you at the Sean Lewis press conference, but you had great questions. Next one, have them hand the mic to you." Aztec Mike.
Well, there's nobody going to those press conferences. I was shocked. It was me, and it was the Union Tribune beat writer, and it was one TV camera. There's 8 television stations in San Diego. One TV station, KUSI, showed up. One. And me and the UT beat writer, Kirk Kenny. That was it. Other TV stations didn't show up. These websites didn't show up. Daily Aztec didn't show up.
Really? Even the East Village Times?
Didn't show up.
Really?
I was absolutely stunned. So it was Kirk and Lee, Hacksaw and KK. We asked all the bloody questions. And again, it was great. I get along with Sean Lewis, and throw him fastballs and let him foul him off or hit it over the wall. He answered pretty much all the questions. But I don't think he liked the idea that, and I wrote about it. I wrote a one man's opinion column. So if you're an Aztec fan, why don't you go on your email and tell everybody my one man's opinion column is about San Diego State. I don't think he liked the phrase I used, hit the reset button, because last year was a total loss. And now he's lost so many players, including the starting quarterback, Danny O'Neill. They're hitting a reset button. It's like they're starting from absolute ground zero again. I just hope we're not sitting here at another 3-9 season, because it's hard. I'm sorry. It's like they've lost the community. And the fact that nobody in the media outside of Hacksaw and Kirk Kenny is showing up with any regularity to Sean Lewis's press conference, that just blows my mind as to where the program is on the radar of everybody, media included now, which is stunning.
That's a tough assignment. I mean, you know, for Sean Lewis to come in and transform this thing, and, you know, he's got a short window of time to get it done before, you know, he might be on the outs. But tell me a little bit about, they signed, you, according to your article I read today, they signed a offensive lineman from Michigan State.
He's a California kid who had contacts with the offensive line coach, Mike Schmidt. So he decided to come home as a graduate student.
Okay, so if he got recruited by Michigan State in the Big Ten.
He played. He started a bunch of games at Michigan State. So he comes in as kind of an anchor in what's going to be a rebuilt offensive line. And they brought in all these big kids. You know, but he's got 4 new quarterbacks who've never played in a system before. So this is like a year ago this time.
Well, he's got the Central Michigan quarterback and the Michigan Wolverine quarterback.
Yep.
But is there a pecking order, or we're going to have a competition?
Well, that's what spring football is going to be all about. If you're asking me as we sit here at lunchtime today, I think Bert Emanuel is going to be the starting quarterback because he's got more experience than Denegal, who is the kid from Michigan. Bert Emanuel's from Central Michigan, who's played a lot, and he can run. He's more of a runner, whereas Denegal is a pocket passer. But they got to go through the whole system. So we're back to the learning curve with like Danny O'Neill. And I'm so bothered that he left because they invested so much in him to be the future. And I thought the kid had a really decent 18-year-old freshman season with the pressure he was under. He hardly turned the football over till the bitter end when the whole thing kind of caved in on the coaching staff. But I wish he was here because they'd be that much farther ahead. But between the transfer portal and guys graduating, this is like it's a brand new team. He's got 37 new guys coming in the front door that have never taken a snap in that playbook, including 4 quarterbacks.
But it's like that everywhere, though, isn't
Well,
it?
it is, but
You know?
we're talking about San Diego State.
Yeah, well, they've got some work to do. At least they're putting in new turf in the stadium. That hopefully will work better.
All right. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed everything we're trying to bring your way. We do sports talk the way it should be done. It's so cool to have you part of our podcast. We're moving our Monday podcast to 1:30 every Monday afternoon. And, of course, we have our regular Thursday podcast. Tell all your friends who we are. Hacksaw's back. Check my website. It's all written. It's there every morning. I guarantee you will really like the volume of information. Share. Tell everybody what we do. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every time we put something up, you'll get an alert. Follow me on Twitter. We really enjoy having you as we move into the 3rd year of doing this podcast. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego, plus the new one up in Dana Point. You got projects around the house or at work? Think DIXIELINE Lumber. John's going to be buying me Philly cheesesteak sandwiches on Monday. Philadelphia wins a 60-minute bar fight over Kansas City. I just don't think Patrick Mahomes can cope with everything Philadelphia's defense has got. And I don't know how the Chiefs' defensive front holds up to Saquon Barkley and the best offensive lineman in the NFL. And John Riley says,
I want to hear your comments on Kendrick Lamar at the halftime show. You going to be eating a bunch of shrimp? I mean, that was a big thing for you last year.
yeah, I'll be doing that at halftime. I won't be watching that because I'm a football guy.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to deal with all that entertainment stuff.
You have yourself a great sports weekend and bring your credit card Monday.
Okay, Lee, we'll talk to you then.
Thanks for being with us. You have a great sports weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you Monday, 1:30 on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.